And we're joined tonight by our exclusives, the one and onlys, um, Craig Oman, CEO of Fowl Studios, and one of the minds behind this adaptation, as well as Mike West, creative director at Fowl Studios, and of course one of the minds behind Gloomhaven Digital as well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Hot, but good. Yeah, it's been very, very busy couple of weeks, especially. But
It has. It has.
It's good. We're still manically working away, trying to get the last few bug fixes crammed in. But yeah, it's all going well.
All right. So why are we here tonight? So for the people who don't know Gloomhaven, there might be a few of those in the chat. We're making a tactical scenario dungeon crawling game, right? Heavily tactical. By the way, it's an adaptation from a massive board game made by Isaac Childress. Huge success in the board game scene that we're trying to do justice to, right? The idea of the game is you bring a group of mercenaries in a journey where you will explore dungeons and dungeons places, try to uncover their secrets, and build up the team. It's not like the kind of war where you save the world or are a hero. It's more you against all odds kind of thing. And at this point in our early access, we are ready to release a massive content update called Guildmaster. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, and it's coming live tomorrow, right? So we have these gentlemen here to talk us through that, explain us, like the ins and outs of everything. And yeah, basically that's what it's gonna be. So just a few disclaimers before we jump into it right away. You guys are free to ask any question in the chat. Everything is welcome, but we will not discuss spoilers for the game, right? It's super important for the community. Anything that's related to secret classes, unlockable characters, etc. Anything related to the secrets of the board game, we should keep to ourselves, obviously. And before you ask that question, no, we don't have a date quite yet for the release of the full campaign at this very moment. But all the rest is like on the table, right? So let's jump into it. Do we have some questions in the chat? All right, let me see. Someone asked, when can we expect the full campaign? See, they're already not following the rules. All right, well, I said we wouldn't talk about it, but do you guys have an idea? I'd say, personally, not this year. Right.
You're just breaking all the rules.
Yeah, I'm breaking them right away. That's who I am. That's who I am, man. I can't help it.
Classic Julian. I'm going to lay down all the ground rules, and then I'm going to break them all.
Exactly. That's what we do here.
I think the campaign we're saying is not going to be this year. We're targeting early 2021. But as everybody who's been following us along on this journey, we really just try and focus on what's the immediate goal, what's the next thing we're going to do, and then we try not to commit too far beyond that because there's so many unknowns. Especially with a game like Gloomhaven. So right now the big focus has obviously been getting the Guildmaster update done, which I think has been received pretty well. I'd be curious.
Yeah, so far, definitely. Yeah.
Thoughts from people in the community if you want to say how you're getting on with it, any particular highlights or lowlights. But yeah, so we're looking forward to getting that out, and then as we've said, the closed beta for the multiplayer is kind of the next big thing. And then after that, it's all about adding more playable characters, more enemies, which is all leading into giving us all the content we need to make the campaign. So we don't really see a scenario where we complete every single playable character and every enemy and get all the campaign together this year. I think that's realistically going to be next year. But you should now see, as we've kind of with the Guildmaster, we've got a great new mode to play, huge amount of new content, and then you're going to see more regular updates, adding more content to play in that mode, which again will just bring us closer to getting the full campaign done.
Yeah. So,
I think.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Mike, go
think
ahead.
what I'd add to that as well, and it answers another question which comes up quite a lot, which is, why aren't you just working on the campaign? We get that quite a lot.
We get that one a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of related to, when's the campaign ready? Because the reason we haven't started by creating the campaign is the campaign has a huge, with a capital H, amount of content, which is why it's such a cool campaign. So if we waited until we had everything implemented, you wouldn't get anything new to play until it was ready. Which, although for the people that just want to play it, they probably don't mind. There's actually probably quite a lot of players who would just like to play Gloomhaven with different stories and different settings. And yes, you still get the thing at the end anyway. You still get the campaign. It's not as though the campaign's not coming. But the way we like to do it is we give you something to play and join with us and help, direct how the final game's going to be in some respects as well. Not the rules necessarily,
Yes.
but the interface, the style of graphics and everything and things like that. So it really allows us to involve the community all the way to getting the campaign ready. But at the same time, a lot of people say, isn't it going to spoil the campaign? Well, the good thing is we're not using any of the story from the campaign and lots of elements like that. So you get basically two completely unique, stories and settings as well. Not, different areas of the world, which we talked to Isaac about as well. So, that's why you don't get the campaign right at the beginning, because the beginning would then be a long way away.
Yeah, and last time we checked it, I think it was more than 1,000 total abilities in the game, including those from the enemies. So yeah, like definitely, it's not something that is very viable for you guys to release in one go, right?
And think of all the testing for that day one
Exactly,
release.
yeah.
All of the enemies, all of the heroes, all interacting with everyone. And on day one, we go, here you go, here's everything.
Yeah, so many combinations, right?
There's about a year of testing that was in one build. Right?
Yeah. All right. So that's for the campaign, right? Bottom line, it's coming. As soon as we can make it, to a reasonable degree of polish and stability. But in the meantime, we got some good stuff for you. So about that good stuff, can you guys walk me a little bit through the thought process, why you decided to do this? What was like the genesis of this Guildmaster update, and what you do?
Yeah, so it comes from the first release we did. Obviously, you two are producers. You'll know the dates better than me. I'm just come up with ideas. But the first build we did, the first release we did, was the original adventure mode, and the idea back then was we wanted people to start playing the game as soon as possible to see, first of all, if what we had decided to do with the visuals and the interface and the systems and everything like that, that we were making the right decisions, and that the feedback, was like, oh, we like this, or we don't like this, and we're able to change it early on, right? So the first thing we wanted to do is the game was playable, so let's get it out into people's hands, let's get them playing it. Which people, we had a lot of positive feedback, we had some negative feedback, which, we're happy with any kind of feedback because we listen to it, we incorporate the changes, and we improve things, and I hope people are seeing that with our community. And at that point, there wasn't really any story, and there wasn't really any reason to carry on playing apart from you liked playing Gloomhaven, gameplay, right? Which the gameplay is freaking awesome, and we're not changing the gameplay, right? Apart from tiny little tweaks here and there. But there's no story. So the next thing we really had to look at was, right, we can't implement the campaign story with the first release because we would have to have everything in. So we have to work out how do we release story and make an interesting mode for people, but don't overlap the actual game that's going to be out there, so that we don't spoil all the story in the full campaign. So this mode is taking what we had in the original release, as in the randomized dungeons, the different creatures we had, adding more creatures, adding more biomes, and then creating a story around it, creating a way of unlocking everything, improving balance as well. So for people that played the old game, the first mission you would take on was as difficult as the last mission you'd take on. Obviously depending on the difficulty you chose, but the first mission was what I call 300 threat, and the last mission was 300 threat. Apart from the boss missions, everything was the same difficulty. So if you started playing the game, you'd never played Gloomhaven before, you booted up the first mission, you died basically in the old mode. And that wasn't a great experience for a lot of people, and a lot of people said this game's too hard, and fair enough. And then a bunch of other people said this game's too easy. So we again looked at the harder difficulty levels and made a better difficulty level for those, and those If you play it on insane, then yeah, the first mission you take on at the beginning is really hard, and it gets harder is the idea on that one as well. So there's hopefully difficulty levels for everybody. There's hopefully a story that everyone can enjoy. There's a better flow to the game. You don't unlock powerful items right at the beginning of the game. They unlock over time, and if you feel like you're exploring the map and as you play it, you'll see there's areas of the maps you're not exploring, and we're leaving those areas for updates later on in the year as we release more content as well. So we've also designed it to be fully upgradable as the year continues as well, again before the campaign comes out, say early next year.
Yeah, right. And yeah, and we got rid of durability as well.
We got rid of durability. I can have a whole other conversation about durability, but probably now's not the time.
I was just reading that. Right, so like we have a few questions from the community about like this mode specifically. So I'm trying and pick a few. How much of the lore did you guys create in partnership with Isaac? How much was he consulted for that? Especially like the map, the cities, the layout, and is it considered official canon of Gloomhaven?
So the map, the position of the cities, the forests, the mountains, the rivers, so the big towns, Isaac basically came up with all of that, where everything sits. The smaller areas in between, we've kind of just filled in ourselves, and he's been fine with that. And then obviously he has been a very, very busy man with all of the different, expansions, new versions, new Kickstarters, etc. So he's not been able to oversee absolutely everything we're doing. So I wouldn't say every single quest we've done, every single text box we've done is lore. It's our interpretation of that. But if there's at any point he doesn't like something, he can contact us and say, I don't like. There was a whole conversation very early on about that river doesn't go there. The river needs to move slightly this direction. This city needs to be here, and that's all cool, right? Anytime there's any feedback from Isaac, we listen to it, we incorporate it. At no point are we disagreeing with Isaac on anything. So he generally comes in, and if there's anything he doesn't like, he comes and tells us, and we sort it out. So I wouldn't say he's designed absolutely everything, because he simply doesn't have time. Right, he's a very, very busy guy doing his own very, very important thing. So, you have to be hands off to a degree. But I don't think there's anything he's, disappointed or angry about or anything like that. So that's cool.
All right. So yeah, like definitely, there's some part of Isaac's work in there. What would you guys consider to be the biggest challenge in the development of the game so far, right, up until Guildmaster, and what do you believe it's going to be moving forward?
I was probably dealing with the community.
Yeah, these guys. Oh man. Yeah. And the snakes and everything.
I'm a big fan of them. Yeah, I think like the sheer amount of content, sort of complexity, and how everything links in together is just the biggest challenge. And the fact that normally within computer game development, you have the designers come up with an idea of something they want to do, and then typically that is adapted to what is easier to program or to get sort of scripting systems in place for. So you try to adapt the design so that actually it fits better with development. And then things go along. If there are challenges, any struggles, then you can opt to remove content or redesign content. And that's just not really something we've had the opportunity to do any of. So it is that having a very constrained design has been a real challenge from a purely video game point of view. But yeah, I think it's just the sheer complexity. Like I often joke, the rule number one is you're not playing Gloomhaven correctly unless you're playing some of the rules incorrectly.
Yes.
And we're still learning stuff as we go through of like, well, how does this thing actually work? And that's where the community has definitely been, a huge benefit there. And look, we have the closed beta guys as well that are super knowledgeable. So we're still having conversations around like, well, actually, how does this particular ability work, or this item with this ability? And that's definitely challenging. There's a lot of stuff you just get away with for a normal video game. You just be like, well, that's how it works. No, like there's no argument. Whereas, you know, most of the community know how the game works better than we do. So there's not really any hiding or kind of smoke and mirrors you can pull. It's like, no, it's just got to work perfectly.
I think the other thing as well is obviously Isaac's designed it as a board game, and doesn't ever have to implement it. So he's not designed systems which are easy to implement, are consistent, are reusable across the board. He's designed things that are fun.
Right.
So you get a very fun game, but there are situations when you get to certain combinations of certain things, and then your coders say, "How does that work?" And then you tell them, and they're like, "And how many times is that used?" And you say, "Once." Out of 1,300 abilities, it's used once. And you're like, "Okay, I've that's taken me half a day. What do I do next?" Now you do this one ability. When you're making a computer game, like one of those abilities should be doing 50 things, right? And that's what I've done for my career. It's like, how do we make this in the most sensible way possible and reuse all the work we're doing? And then now we're doing Gloomhaven. It's like, how do we do everything in a completely unique way? Now you get a great game of you get an incredibly varied game, right? It's just as a development thing, it's, you know, we're challenging, right? It's a challenging process for us, but you know, we're doing pretty well, I think. So yeah, it's always interesting, right? You always get something new to do.
One of the things as well with some of the characters, especially the bosses, we're like, this is a really complex model, and we go to the animations, particle effects, and everything, and it's like, okay, well, how many times is that used in the campaign? Once.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, it's one of the cool things with the Guildmaster mode, the adventure mode before that, is that we are bringing in a lot more reuse of this content, letting people actually play in different ways. So yeah, I think it's quite cool to kind of be able to revisit a lot of that content and not just have it once, one and done.
Right. All right. Let's jump into another one straight away. Are there plans for short and long quests to unlock new characters? So, of course, dangerous territory here with the new characters, but like, how do we unlock them? And how do we manage these quests to unlock them?
Yeah, so there's one unlockable. Obviously, if you played the previous adventure mode, there was a unlockable character in that. Where you had to beat a boss or two, depending. Oh, well, that's to unlock the extra characters. It was initially there, but you had to click a button, so it wasn't spoiled. So the way we're doing it with adventure mode is, first of all, you have to complete an achievement, and then once you've cashed in the achievement, you get a quest to play with that character. Because most of the characters have unique gameplay, and we want to put a puzzle mission in for every character if we can, just a short single puzzle mission for them. So this character has a puzzle mission, and then they're available to play. Now, one of the things we'll be adding later is their own little story. So every character, all of the starting characters, have a 3-part story, and then that they also work together to take out bosses as well. And then the additional characters will also have that, but usually in pairs. So when we get our next one, we'll be pairing them up with somebody else, and then they'll be taking on a boss as well. So the reason we've done it that way is, we obviously don't even want to put the icon up if people don't want to have their game spoiled. We really are we find it very important not to spoil anything for any of the board game players. So it's all opt-in. If you don't want to unlock any new characters, don't cash in the achievement. You won't see the icon of the character. Once you've taken the quest, gone into the quest, you'll see the name of the character. Until that point, you'll only have seen their icon. It's all up to you on how you want to interact with it. There is nothing shoved in your face and broken for you is the general way we're looking at it. So these will be coming, more characters will be coming this year, basically. That's one of the things we're going to be working on now.
I think the latest trailer we put out like hints toward what will be the next character. There's a small hint for the more attentive people here.
I think it's a cool idea that having kind of multiple quests that might then unlock the characters, but it's something we sort of have with the story missions already. They sort of chain into each other, so it's an interesting thought. More work, obviously, but I like the idea of some of the things actually being longer term. Do a few different scenarios to unlock something.
Right. I'm trying to stay on the Guildmaster related questions, but there's a ton of questions about what is coming next, do we plan to do this and that. I'll keep those, right? I'm writing them down, but I'm keeping those for later. I'm trying to cover Guildmaster for now.
Yeah. There's a lot of multiplayer questions as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of clear ones. Yeah. So look, I'm just storing them for the moment, but we'll get to these. How far from the board game do you guys plan to take this Guildmaster mode? Like, in the end, what are the main differences? And yeah, like, where do you think we'll land? How far will it be from the campaign? Yeah, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think from core gameplay, so within a scenario, we're not really going away from what the board game does at all. There's obviously different scenario designs and special objectives or scenario modifiers that I think might be slightly different. But yeah, typically the core experience of the playing a scenario in the Guildmaster mode is the same as playing a scenario in the campaign.
Right.
But then I think one of the big things in Guildmaster that's different from campaign is that we don't have character retirement. So you will actually take all of your characters up to level 9. They'll stay at level 9. And that's going to be actually something we're really interested in getting feedback on, as kind of how that experience plays out. Because, yeah, in the board game, you're getting to level 9 and then you may not even ever get to level 9, you're retiring before then and unlocking a new character. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting that you're going to actually be able to keep your characters forever. But actually, how does that work in terms of balancing and kind of the play between the sort of synergy between the different characters at those levels, if they're all up at that high level? So yeah, I think that's probably one of the big differences.
I think the other thing to bear in mind as well is everything we're going to be doing in the Guildmaster mode is a step again towards the campaign, right? So if we are doing scenario modifiers, what you might find is there's one mission. I'm using the example of one again. There's one mission in the board game which might do something different, which might have a different win condition or a different scenario modifier. We can then take that and make 7 or 8 missions out of it, right? So we can make a different gameplay system and then use it more, which helps us develop the Guildmaster mode, but helps you have a more varied selection of quests as well. It's something we have to do for the campaign. We have to do it at some point, but instead of leaving it right to the end and then doing one mission on it, let's get it in early. Let's get you more varied missions. Let's get you more varied gameplay, and it allows you to have fun with missions you never will play, right, in the final game. So you'll never see these combinations of creatures and modifiers and victory conditions, and so you'll just get a different experience, right, which is good for everyone, really, because we'll have the systems, and this is what you don't have in the board game. As soon as you've created a system in a computer game, you can reuse that system as many times as you want and make some really varied, interesting situations with very little work, right? So in theory, that's what we're trying to do. Now, you could say, I saw a question pop up saying, are we having battle goals? Are we having personal quests?
Yeah, I've had this one.
Yeah, so for me, that's the campaign, right? That is a very specific thing to the campaign. If we do that, then we're basically doing the campaign again.
Right.
But it's going to be in the campaign, so you will get all that stuff. But that's an example of a feature. For example, the personal goals of finishing and retiring that character.
Yeah.
That's something that makes sense only to come out when the campaign comes out. So that's a feature that will go in as the campaign comes out.
Right.
So we'll look at each individual element like that. Like a lot of the events and city events and road events, we don't want to do any that are particularly exactly the same. They all have to be used in the campaign again. So we have to create our own replayable ones at the moment, whereas the ones in the campaign are one-off. If you see them once, you then know what to do the next time, so you can't use them again. Most of them are one trigger, whereas ours need to be more. Now we need to put more events into our mode, and that's, again, one of the things we'll be doing as well. But yeah, when you say how far away are you moving the game, when we're still implementing the same game, we're just trying to smartly use the content that the game has in it to create a mode which is varied. I think it's probably the best explanation I can give.
All right. Yeah, and we had this question, right, about like road events and city events. So basically, we will have our own in this Guildmaster mode, but a little differently. Right.
Yeah, I mean, we can't. So a lot of the ones in the board game are, do you want to do A or B, right? But A is fundamentally better than B, right? So once you have done the event and you've chosen A, the card is torn up and thrown in the bin, right?
Yep.
We can't do that because the mode's very large and it's repeatable, and you can keep playing as long as you want. And if we kept throwing away all the events, there'd be none left. So all of our events generally have to be more like some other roguelike games that are out there, or deck builders or whatever, where you keep coming up against the same events, but they're more random, and but I've chosen this time and it's done something different, which you don't get in the board game because you only see the events once usually. So the event system is slightly different, but it won't be for the campaign again. The campaign will be like the board game version.
All right. So, like, as we build our way towards the campaign, aside from what is obviously written on the roadmap, is there any big steps that we need to take? Like, do you guys see any major milestone in our development before we can reach that campaign? Is there any main feature, any main thing that we want to hit?
I think this was the one, right?
Yeah, I think so too, right? No, I definitely think so. Like, it's like from now on, it's mostly content, right? Like characters and.
There's a lot of content, right? There's a lot of content. There's a lot. Heroes are the main thing, and it's the interactions between those heroes. There's a lot of complexity in the heroes. The creatures, not too bad. The story flow now, we've got all those systems in. All of the kind of idea of quests leading to quests is in. All of the idea of the banners that go along the top, that's pretty much the achievement system. We've got prosperity, and we're using it in a slightly different way at the moment, but we have the prosperity system in the background. We have the event system, the temples in. There's lots of things.
Yeah, most things are already there. Yeah,
most things are there. There's a few things about the retirement and things like that, but they're not actually, compared to the stuff that's in, they're not actually that complicated now. So it's my list of things is mainly mercenary. That's the largest section of work we have now, but we have the game to put them in now, right? We don't have the randomized mode with no story. We now have mercenary. I can add a story for them and give them some quests, and this guy, they're trying to kill this horrible character, right? Okay, we'll do that then. So we've got the ability to add story and characterization, and it's just going to be content and rules, I think.
All right. Let me see. What else do we have? An interesting one. We've made slight changes. I insist on that one. Changes to the board game rules. Someone was giving the example of stamina potions reduced by 1, slightly nerfed, but that was something that Isaac wanted to do too, right?
Yes.
Nerf the stamina potions. Yeah, definitely. Are there any other changes that we made or will make or have to make, like diverging a little bit from the initial board game?
Yes. So some of them will make almost no difference to the game at all. So the first one is being able to do a short rest at the start of a turn rather than at the end of a turn, because computers don't care about if you've made a mistake. So if you go, I don't want to make a short rest, and then you start the turn, you go, actually I do. If you've got your friends round, they'll go, okay, yeah, you can do a short rest. Whereas the computer will go, no, you said you weren't going to make a short rest, you can't do a short rest, you can't. And then the player will go, that's ridiculous, can I go back? No, you're stuck. So just putting the ability to put the short rest at the start of the turn, again, talk to Isaac, he said that makes sense, and actually I think it might play a little bit better. I think maybe I would play that way on the board game at home. But there are other ones which work very well on the board game and just will not work digitally.
Yes.
So something like leather armor, which is coming into this. Thanks, Frodo. Something like leather armor, which is coming into this build. So the leather armor in the board game is when you're attacked, you choose to do something or not. Right? Now that's quite easy because you don't say you're going to use it in the board game until you want to use it.
Right.
So every turn passes absolutely fine until you suddenly go, I want to use it now, and then you use it, right? But in the computer game, the computer needs to know whether you want or don't want to use it every single turn. So every single time you're attacked, the computer would say, do you want to use it now? Do you want to use it now? I'll wait until you want to use it. Do you want to use it now? And basically the game would come to a halt. Every time there's an attack, the game would stop and say, do you want to use it now? And that is not a fun gameplay experience. There is a bunch of items. There's actually not that many. I think there's about 5 or 6. which have similar problems to that. There's one which is you can use it in another player's turn. So do you want to use it now? Do you want to use it now? You can use it at any point in anyone's player's turn. So we have to look at intelligent ways to change those, to keep the balance right, and every single one of those is going through Isaac. So leather armor, and then later on studded leather armor, which will be coming quite soon as well. They've both gone through Isaac. He's happy with the change. I came up with a number of suggestions. He said, actually, this one probably closest to the original design. So fundamentally, we will have to change some things. There will be some cases. I don't envision very many of the cases. People can probably guess one of the cases where abilities are so complicated to implement because of the number of ways they can interact with each other that we may have to change an ability. At the moment, there is one.
Yeah, that one card that has no name.
One card that people may have noticed has not been implemented yet.
Yes.
We've had an initial conversation with Isaac about that card. He has also said that particular card is not a hugely used card as well. Someone may have guessed the card. So we may be coming up with a version of it which actually makes it more interesting and will make people use it more. So we'll update you when we're happy with the design of that, and when we're happy that people can have a go at it and see what they think. Again, been in conversation with Isaac on coming up with versions for that as well. But that's a terrifying card, right? It's every card can interact with every character in every possible way.
It was impossible to make. Let's just face it was not possible.
I think everyone could play the game for 20 years and you still wouldn't have tested every possible combination of use of that card.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like we shied away from it for excellent reasons, I think. All right, I think I covered. I've got one last about the Guildmaster specifically. Are we able to respec our characters, and if so, how?
I think Craig.
Oh, do I get to talk now?
Go on, Craig.
Okay.
We talked about this the other day, so I'll let you take it. Go on.
Yeah, hang on. All right, I'll get my notes. You told me how to answer this one.
But you have to I wait you up. Sorry.
I was working. I was getting the build ready. Respecking is in the game. It's currently free. It allows you to reset your characters back to level 1. We'll undo all of the perks. We'll also undo all of the enhancements you've put on the cards. We were discussing whether we should start adding a cost to this and whether it's something we actually want to start restricting players on. But I think the general consensus is people really like the freedom to actually build the characters in different ways. I don't think we really want to dissuade people from doing it, and especially with the way the achievements we've implemented them for the new mode. There's challenges in there around doing certain or applying certain stats effects on characters. So that actually might encourage you to build character in a different way just to complete that achievement, and then you might switch back if you want to try and actually defeat some of the harder levels. It may not be the efficient way to play, but it actually creates an interesting challenge and allows you to build a character in a different way that you wouldn't have thought about before, which I think for us as players is interesting. We like that challenge, but if we start putting a cost on the respecking, then maybe that becomes more of a frustration.
There's another thing to bear in mind as well. If we take you behind the curtain for a moment, part of the reason you have the Guildmaster mode and the Adventure mode before it is because it allows you to play the game earlier, which means it allows you to find any issues for us earlier. If we lock everyone into their choices, it means people play less of the game, right? You stick with what you know. There's a penalty for trying something else. If you're trying everything, if everyone's trying everything and something goes wrong at some point, then we know about it earlier when we're in early access. That is great for development. So it's actually a really good thing for us to use to allow you to play more of the game now. In the campaign you can't, so it's actually, if we use the campaign rules, less of the game would get tested, and at the moment testing for us is vitally important to make the game as good as it can be when we come out of early access.
Don't tell them, Mike, that was a secret.
Yeah, but it's a good thing.
Yeah,
It makes
yeah.
the game more
Actually,
fun.
okay, no,
And
no,
it's
you
good
guys,
for-
no, there it is, there it is. We're like the game is so complex that we have to test it. Like,
Yeah.
there it is. We have to.
Please try weird things.
Yeah, yeah, please, yeah, exactly. Please try weird combos, suboptimal builds.
Yep.
Try them.
Yeah. And just to clarify, that it is you respec, you keep all the actual XP. You go through the leveling up process again.
Yep.
So it's not that you go back to level 1 enough to play it again. You actually retain everything, so you get to choose it all again.
And you don't have to tear the stickers off the cards.
Yeah.
Technically, you're not allowed to do that in the board game.
Exactly.
Once
exactly.
the stickers applied, that's it. You're not allowed to actually remove
You
it.
won't be able to do that in our campaign. Use it while you can. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's it for like Guildmaster specifically. So like there's like a few posts and a trailer out there for you guys to discover anything that you want to know about it. Of course, you know, we're super impatient for you guys to see it, and I think
Right.
no, everyone is burning for us to jump into like the multiplayer topic.
Yeah. I will just say that like the
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Guildmaster mode is live in the open beta. You guys
Yes.
can go into Steam. If you right click on the game in Steam, go to properties. There's a betas tab in there. There's a drop down that will actually let you into the open beta. We do keep them as separate save files between the normal game and the beta version, so that in case we end up doing anything that breaks your save file, there is a progress wipe with this update anyway. But just to clarify that there's different save files between the two modes. But you guys can go in and jump in and play that now. But yeah, we're just obviously still working through trying to find the last few bugs. But I pushed a build just before this call actually. So yeah, you can actually jump in and start playing it now. But yeah, it should be going out live to everybody tomorrow.
Yeah, and like didn't we have a branch for people who specifically want to keep playing the old mode?
Yeah, so I put the old branch on. I think I just called it the build number, which is scrolling for it now. It's just called V.12401, which is the last update that we had done before the Guildmaster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll leave that on a branch so that people can go and play if you want to carry on doing your mode. But I really think 99.9% of people are going to
Yes.
play the new Guildmaster mode and be like, "Wow, this is so much better."
It's honestly so much better. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's great.
no doubt. Like
Yeah, I've not heard anybody that's played through the open beta said,
that wants to go back. You know.
yeah, it's much better.
But if you really want to, like, the option is there. Just so you know. All right, into multiplayer now. Let's go. So a few questions from people. Is multiplayer intended to be available for Guildmaster or only for individual scenarios? And I guess what about the campaign as well?
So yes, it's going to be available in Guildmaster. That'll actually be the sort of main way we envisage people playing. We are adding in support. We've got the level editor and the custom scenarios that you can play. That will be something that we support for multiplayer as well. But to be honest, look, right now all our focus is on getting the multiplayer working just within the Guildmaster mode. So yes, it'll be completely enabled there, and it'll be using your existing save. So you'll start the game in Guildmaster, you'll play through, and then if you want to sort of create or open that up to actually let people join in and play as a couple of your characters, you can, and then if they leave, you can carry on playing. And then, so you're not necessarily having to restrict it to just single player, just multiplayer. You'll actually be able to just turn on multiplayer option whenever you want. And we do have it as well, but there's the option that you'll download a copy of the save of the people that you're playing with. So if you're joining somebody else's game, you'll actually get a copy of their save. So that means if, Mike and I and Julian, say, all start playing through Guildmaster together and we're playing multiplayer and we're doing a session every night for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden Mike starts to get bored because he's got work to do. But we're actually, even though Mike was maybe the original host, we can still just carry on. We've still got access to it. Or if Mike just wants to go off and play on his own because we play too slowly for him, then he can just go off and have his own single player version of that.
You were losing too much. That's why you just kept losing. I was
Yeah.
progressing through the
I thought you
game.
said- I thought you said losing, no, losing.
I'm gonna go on it and play with Mike while you stay alone.
Yeah, okay. I thought we said no abuse in this call.
I had one
I didn't
question.
sign up for that. I don't think.
Yeah. I had that question. Can we play like 4 characters but 2 players, like someone 2 each, or one person control 3, one controls 1, etc.? Can we do those things?
Yeah, so somebody was asking about the. There's also about whether we can do like local and online. We don't
Yes.
have any system in place for allocating specific people to play locally as
Yeah.
different characters. But you can obviously just pass and play.
Yeah.
But you can set it up that you can have one character play, or one person play 2 characters, or even 3 characters. So you can have 2 and 2 or 3 and 1, however
Exactly.
you want
Yeah.
to set it up. So yeah.
All right.
There was another question about the initiative, what we're doing.
Yeah. Like
Right.
I was gonna ask this one: will there be a mechanism to indicate a range of initiative to your fellow players,
Yeah, so
a way to communicate about that?
yeah, for this one, where you'll just see a question mark. I think probably the first version of the builds that Close Beta will see will have the initiative values displayed, because we actually need them to make sure it's all working properly. But you'll get to the point where it's just question marks that are displayed, so there'll be no indicator. We've shied away from doing any sort of in-game communication system. There's a lot of complexity for us to do already.
Yeah.
So we are sort of expecting people to use things like Discord to actually set up and have communication between you. There's not going to be random matchmaking as well. That's not something we're going to be supporting, because we really don't see that being a good experience for anybody. If you jump into just having some randomer come in and play your game, I don't think you're gonna have fun doing that. I'd much rather that people are actually, at least using these kind of the Discord servers to find people you want to play with, and are actually willing to at least text, chat, or jump into a voice channel and communicate properly about how to play the game.
Right.
Because I don't think jumping in randomly is gonna lead to a good experience.
No, yeah, it's definitely the kind of game you want to play with people that you can talk to. Discuss the strategy, at least. I know that different people play it differently, because in the board game you're not supposed to communicate too much about what's in your hand, etc. And what you're gonna play. But yeah, a minimum level of communication is important for the experience, basically. You need
that's
that.
the point, really. I mean, the point is people can play it however they like.
Yeah.
Right? We're not enforcing anything. You play it as you play the board game, right? If you want to talk and you enjoy it that way, then do it. If you want to stick to the rules and be a bit mysterious and screw each other over, and then do that, right? It's absolutely play it the way you want to play it. If we enforce one way of playing it, then somebody will go, I don't want to play it that way. So we'll let you enforce how you want to play it. If you want to talk about it, feel free to talk about it. It's your game, right?
Right. Oh, one quick question. Any chance of computer-controlled characters? That's what I like. I like this one.
Oh, I'm just going to mute myself a minute. Hang on.
No. But however, there are scenario modifiers where that's kind of happening, right?
Oh, well, there's AI enemies, right, which become on your side and stuff. If that's what you
exactly,
mean.
yeah. There's there are modifiers in the board game, and we have a few missions of those.
I don't think that's what they mean, though.
No, but that's not what they meant. But I'm saying it's like there's something like that, a little bit like that, where you've got an ally that you're not controlling, so that we can already do. But AI controlled.
Sorry, Aspis. Not going to happen.
Sorry, Aspis. This one is,
well, if you think about it, someone could probably create a character, create all of their AI cards to use abilities that character uses, and then create a quest and put that character in it, right? So in theory, you could create a very complicated AI-controlled character via our modding system. And then you could go and play a quest with them, and he could look like...
actually, you're totally right. So you guys go ahead and do it, because we won't. There you go.
You can do it. There you go.
That's the answer.
We got enough to do.
Yeah.
But you probably could do something like that. You could probably both create one and then get them to fight each other.
Yeah. Like Gloomhaven, the fighting game. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Another one about multiplayer. do my friends need to own the game to play alongside? Yes, definitely. I can answer that one. It's easy. Like all players need to own a copy of Gloomhaven. And no, like we've had this question a zillion time already. How will this multiplayer feature be released? Like there will be a ramp up from closed beta to open beta to the final release. How does that ramp up happen? And how can these guys get into the different stages of the beta?
Yeah, so it's all managed through my PayPal account.
Exactly.
So I'll provide details for donations there. So we are starting in a closed beta, and we're going to be hand-picking some of the most sort of dedicated community members that have been around for the longest time. And I know that's probably frustrating for some of the people that are just getting into the game and really want to get into multiplayer. But what we're trying to do is make sure that multiplayer lands as smoothly as possible. So the first group of people that we want to come in are the guys that we've already been talking to, that we know we can have a good conversation with, and they know how we work as well. So there's no frustration. They know kind of what we're trying to achieve. So it's about bringing those people in so that we can start getting some feedback and actually understand where the issues are, what we need to address before we can expand that to a wider group. So we will expand it as quickly as we can, but there's no commitment on kind of when we can do that. We really just want to make sure that it's fun enough so that we can start to add people in. We will be putting this kind of on a system where if somebody comes into the closed beta, they will be able to actually bring in a couple of friends with them as well. But again, it's going to be about just trying to keep the numbers down so that we can get a control number of our amount of feedback. There's really very little value for us to have 2,000 people all complaining about the same issues, or 2,000 people complaining about 2,000 different issues, because we don't know what to fix and it's hard to capture all that information. So it's about just starting small and actually gradually build up as we've got the confidence in it. But yeah, we will, as quickly as possible, we want to ramp up, and even if there are things that we think, well, this isn't working that well, but it's easy to communicate to people not to do, or we can disable it in multiplayer, and then we can allow people to come in and have a good time without breaking the game randomly. Then those are kind of all the things we just want to try and figure out, because the last thing we want to do is just have a lot of very frustrated people not having a good time. So rather you're frustrated now waiting to play, and then come in and have a good time.
All right. So in short terms, right, we will be releasing this multiplayer soon, and we will be opening up the beta even sooner than that, which is amazing, right? And at this very moment, like if you hang around the Discord, and you might be picked by Craig, especially if you've took a look at his PayPal account. All right, I think that's it for multiplayer, I guess.
Really? No.
Yeah, well, I mean, we covered a lot of it.
There was a good point from Mundolf, actually, which was a ping system. So,
yeah.
The point about anything on top of what we're talking about, and that goes with the core game, multiplayer, the adventure mode, anything like that, is feedback, right? Because that's how we work. That's with the three people on this call at the moment are the three people primarily that make the decisions on this project. So if lots of people ask about something, then that's when the three of us discuss it and we go, that's actually a good idea, because we need to implement the campaign mode, but on top of that, what other things are we going to do? Are we going to put an undo button in? That's one of the things on our list. But a ping system in multiplayer should probably go on that list, right? Which of those things should we be working on first? That's a very good question. This is something that, if there's something you're passionate about, ping us. Ping Craig. Always ping Craig. He's fine.
Yeah, that's something that you should do, definitely. I mean,
but yeah, go on the feedback and type in there and say, oh, these are the things. These are the things I'd love to do, right? So I'd love to have in the game. So I can't promise you'll get them, but I can promise that we'll discuss them and we'll work out the thing out of the group you'll want more, right? So
yeah,
feel free to keep talking.
that's how we've built the game so far for a lot of
Mhm.
it. I mean, like
Like the tutorial, we totally redid the tutorial based on feedback.
yeah,
Right?
tutorial, durability, like all these
Yep.
good things, like these good, this amazing ideas we had that you guys don't like, right? uh, all right.
Let's not invite Julian back for one of these again.
All
I
right.
didn't think he was invited, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I just came in.
Someone was
I
ill,
just-
I think, was the,
I
what
ju-
happened.
I just stepped in and with a list of questions, that's it. Invited myself like always. All right,
This is a weekly publisher developer meeting.
exactly. That
Yeah.
this is this is work. All right. I think that's all I had for multiplayer. So I'll just jump into like more of the all the questions, interesting questions we had. A lot of them about this coming, etc. But not only. Like a funny one that I read was, why did we choose Crackheart over Tinkerer for the original 4 Mercenaries we implemented?
So I think it was the very first one we did.
Yeah.
And I think the reason was, he did a bit of everything.
Yep.
So we could start off testing out lots of different parts of the game, ranged, melee, spells, particle effects. He looked quite different. So really starting on getting the stylization of the game early as well. And he worked quite well in a 2-character party because he can do more, right? The Tinkerer works better, I've found, in a larger party.
Yep.
So if you have a 2-character party with the Tinker in, he doesn't have as quite good abilities really early on in the game. So the Crankheart, I think Jack of all trades is what he's good at, right? And that's great for a starting character because you can try a bit of everything.
Yeah, I think the first 2 we did were Crackheart and then Spellweaver, right?
Yeah. Again, the Spellweaver had lots of magical abilities. The Brute, right? Brute's a great character at the start of the game, but he's actually reasonably simple to implement. So
Right.
we wanted to push ourselves a bit more and get some more of the complexities in early.
All right. Another question. So, what new biomes are we making? And to what extent, if we can say without spoiling?
I think we can say, can't we?
Yeah, I think we can. Like, anyway, I think this, like we talked about the city in the communications already.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're getting the first version of the cave with this latest update, but there will be a couple more variants on that, based on the creatures that may exist in variants of the cave. Now that I can't
may or may not, right?
Yeah,
Cannot confirm.
so there are other creatures coming which fit different stylizations of a cave biome.
All right.
At the moment, the ones you're primarily getting are the wild animals that live in the caves, right? But there are other things that live in caves, and those things have a slightly different style. The other areas we'll be getting later is cities and indoor kind of buildings, and I think we're thinking sewers, aren't we? So because there's another group of creatures that kind of like living in the sewers. So they're the biomes that will be coming later. As to exactly when, that's probably not what we talk about on here, is it? We just give a general kind of, these are the things that are happening in the future later this year. But obviously all those things, as always, will be required for the campaign. So primarily we're doing them in this mode, getting them in, getting them looked at, getting the creatures played, fixing all the bugs, and then campaign comes out and it's all shiny and everything works perfectly.
All right. So just one that just came up. Do we have a timeline for new Mercenaries? So we have already announced a new Mercenary coming in the next update. Again, we hinted what it could be if you look closely, but what comes after that, right? So, like, I think we already kind of answered this one in the sense that once we release the multiplayer, like, we will turn our focus to making the content, making these new Mercenaries, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's other things to look on Mercenaries as well, because different Mercenaries have different types of abilities. So some we can look at right now and go, we can implement this character. Almost said him or her, but even that might give it away. Or them. We can implement this character with only 7 pieces of code, right? We can implement this character with 23 pieces of code. So we have to look at it in a smart way and go, at what point do we want to have a cadence of characters until campaign, right? And this again is a conversation between the three of us. At which point do we need the next character? At which point do we need the next character? So it's probably a conversation. It's probably something Asmodee are going to explain better than developers do, because we deliver what the plan for the game is, right? And
Yeah,
the plan
someone
for the
was
game is
asking.
decided by your marketing department because they need
In
to
part, yeah.
but they understand what the players need, right? And what's the best way of keeping the players excited as we go
Yeah.
through the year. So the cadence of the heroes is, we're going to do all the heroes. We'll do them when we decide to do them, right? But we're gonna try and deliver them in a way that there's always a new one coming, right? I think that's probably the best way of saying it. I can't really say the order, because then I'd have to say what they were, and we can't say the exact dates because it's dependent on all the other features that are coming in. So you'll keep getting heroes, he says unhelpfully.
Exactly.
Soon,
yeah.
TM.
Well, that's the
TM.
point, right? So Misha, who is sitting quietly in the background of this call, he's working on one of them right now.
Exactly. But yeah, like
But he's not allowed to
basically,
say which one, but I know he is, because I've seen him fixing bugs.
the big takeaway from it is that once we have the multiplayer route, basically we have the platform that we needed for you guys to play with this Guildmaster, and we have the multiplayer set, right? So we will go back to making mercenaries and content, basically, in preparation for the campaign. So that's a big takeaway. And someone was asking, how do we pick the order in which we develop them?
So that does come back to what I said, which is you look at how many of their abilities can already be implemented, and because it's quite interesting. What you'll actually do is you'll start a new character. I mean, I could look back and say, I know someone that had Retaliate early on, and you say, right, we implement Retaliate because this character has 3 Retaliate abilities, but it actually unlocks these 2 abilities over here as well. So what you'll generally try and do is pick characters who allow you to unlock stuff on other ones. The more unique a character, you'll probably leave till last, because like there are some characters, for example, where you can give cards to other characters, and only one character can really do that. So that character will probably go later, right?
Yep.
It's nothing wrong with that. It's not huge. I'm not saying what those cards are.
Yeah, like
Wow.
someone.
Wow.
Can't win.
I'd just like to say that I'm not with that guy.
Somebody was asking, are there any other cards that we think are going to be as complex as Chimeric Formula? I don't think so. Like we had this color gradient for difficulty of implementation of things, and Chimeric Formula was like dark red, almost black.
Its own color.
It had its own color. It was like like stay away from this card level.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think early on, well, in fact, recently, I've gone through every single card on every single character, and decided which ones we can do and which ones we can't. So that's if there are any dark reds, then that character gets left a little bit later.
Yeah.
It's I don't think there's anything as bad as Chimeric Formula, no.
Yeah. All right.
So it's when we do the really challenging cards, and then they come out, and everybody goes, "Yeah, never pick that card." We spent months on this, just getting this one ability to work, and then is that the level 4 card? Yeah, no, I always pick the other one.
just don't tell James.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see. I have a few questions about our plans for UI. So I have people. So basically, are we looking at some specific UI elements we would like to do a second pass on? Somebody was asking about the elemental infusions, and somebody was asking about the undo movements, for example.
Yeah, so I think there's just a few things sort of in game that we've been tweaking, even with this new update. Like we've tweaked some of the things, especially around the hex highlights and kind of the readability in the game. So we're continually trying to polish on that stuff as we go along. So yeah, I mean, there's various areas I want to deal with, and it's different as well because there's some areas that are really challenging for new players, and then there's some areas that are just more of a quality of life fixture improvement we could make for the more experienced players. So it's kind of juggling, kind of, well, where do we put that effort? Because I'm sure most of the people in the community here are looking for the quality of life fixes, but we've got to be mindful of the fact that the new players coming in are they're future experienced players as well. So we've got to make sure that they've got a smooth ride and getting into the game, and we bring the game to more and more people.
All right. Somebody was asking if we have plans to add more shortcuts for the more used buttons in the game, and I think we already did, right?
Can I get an example?
What kind of shortcut?
Yeah, like what kind of shortcuts? Because like we added like camera movement, we added the rotations, the AOE effect rotations, highlights. I think most of it isn't there right now.
Most things you kind of have to use a mouse, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, item buttons. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Item, but yeah, actually items. Yeah. Could make sense.
Yeah, we could put them on number keys.
Why not? Like an interesting one. Like, how much of the board game did we play to prepare for this production?
No, never played it. No,
Yeah.
that's a joke.
I think this is something I bring up every single time we talk about Gloomhaven with the fans. In that, I backed the Kickstarter the second time, right? And I wasn't working on the game. I'd not been in conversations about the game. I just backed it because I wanted to play it. And then I started working on it I think it was about a week before it arrived. And the first thing I had to do when it arrived was I had to open all the boxes and read every card.
All right.
So I was one of the. I'm probably the only backer in the whole world who bought a £200 board game, and then immediately arrived. I had to open every single hidden box to understand what the game was. It's just like kind of depressing, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I get to work on this awesome game. And then the other thing is like, yeah,
I can't play it now.
I can't actually play it. It's like, I mean, I have obviously played it, and my wife has enjoyed playing it with me, and she gets to play it properly. But yeah, I do get to. Yeah, I haven't got the $200 back, to be fair.
You're still not getting it back.
Well, like, I sent cans of tuna that may have been lost in the shipment. Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's all right.
Yeah. I did. I played a lot over a very short period of time. I can't say how much I did. I certainly didn't play everything. But like it was taking up my entire dining room table for I don't know, 2 weeks or something. We just sat and played. And we were playing like 2 or 3 scenarios a night, just for like sat down trying to play through them. But it did start to get to the point where you're getting them actually hooked up in game, and kind of once you understand the core mechanics, was that's kind of where we had to turn our focus. But then that's why we interact so much with the community, is that it's been really valuable to have that experience of people who have played the game organically, because you have a very different feeling about the game and kind of what that pacing was, and how it felt to add enhancements, like how many enhancements you actually got by the time you were retiring a character or whatever. Like, all of that information is really hard for us to gather as people who are, even if we played it, that we're not playing naturally. We're not sat down playing one game every week or something. So it's been really valuable for us and important for us to actually get feedback from you guys and actually understand that experience of playing and kind of how it makes you feel. And then we've tried to take all of that and put it into the Guildmaster mode, so that we've got a good sort of balance there as well, of kind of things like the enhancements we've changed slightly for the Guildmaster mode compared to Adventure mode, where it was just free for all. You could put as many enhancements. So we've changed that to now have an enhancement point system, so you unlock additional enhancement points, and you need to use the points plus the gold to actually put them on. So we're using that kind of in lieu of prosperity to balance how many enhancements you're able to play to a card. But again, we went to community and actually asked them first, of kind of like, well, actually, when you're playing through the characters, how many are you getting on average? Because we don't want people to end up with 40 enhancements on every character, and then the balance be completely out the window. But at the same time, we don't want it to be a frustrating experience. We're like, well, I really want to get that whatever X enhancement, but I can't because I've already got X-1 enhancements.
There's there's a good point there you're bringing up about balance, actually, which is obviously there's a lot of new quests. There's over 90 quests in the new version,
and more coming.
And a lot of those are randomly generated. Like, you can play multiple times as well. Like, all the job missions you can play multiple times as well. But the others, the story missions, you generally play once. And obviously, I've gone through all of the board game scenarios and worked out kind of Isaac's balance, and then I've talked to Isaac about it a little bit and sent him some emails saying, is this generally how you balance them? And it's been quite an interesting experience to then, generate them across all these different creatures, all these different, how much is this modifier worth? What's this objective? How should that be? And the great thing there has been giving it to the closed beta team and now the open beta and getting feedback on it. And I think at the moment across the board, we're getting general feelings that the balance is pretty good and maybe some of the spawn missions are a bit hard. But the interesting thing is we have full analytics in the game. So what I'm kind of excited about, because I'm a geek, is looking at the analytics after a week of this mode, so next Wednesday or so, or next Thursday, and going, right, which are the really difficult missions? Which are the really easy missions? What difficulty level are most people playing at? And we'll get all these really, really interesting stats. And then, if need be, I can go in and tweak a couple of missions, and the game will be more balanced every time we release it. And it will also inform the next release of the game, right? The next chapter we add, and then the next chapter. And the game will get more and more balanced. And also, we can also look at how far people are getting. Are they getting stuck? Are people even breezing through insane? Okay, we'll go for an even harder level, right? We'll give you more, right? And then you can get to a point where your characters are superpowered, but then the enemies are superpowered too, right? We can keep doing that if we need to.
Like, there was like a question for someone about like, how do we manage difficulty now? Or did we make any changes to like the difficulty settings? I think we did.
Yes, so we've the old difficulty settings. We had an easy setting, which basically reduced the number of enemies and the difficulty of the enemies and gave you a few bonuses. And then we had like the middle difficulty setting, which was the standard difficulty level with like one bonus. And then we had a difficult version, which was +1, right? And that was really what you should be playing single player Gloomhaven on. But then, of course, we have lots of Gloomhaven experts coming to us saying, that's too easy. I play on much harder than that. So we created a mod. I think it was Craig created the mod. It was terrifying for everybody involved. But it worked, which was also terrifying. So what we've done this time is we've started at both ends, going, right, the game needed to start easier for the new players, but it needed to start and end even harder for the expert players. So what actually happens is at the start of the game, everything on the lowest two difficulty levels, so that's the standard difficulty level and the normal difficulty level, there are slightly less enemies than on the other ones. Like there's slightly lower threat level is the way we call it. But the difficulty of the characters, it will tell you what the difficulty are. So I think easy's -1 and normal's 0 and hard's +1 and insane's +2. And then the travel missions have a consistent threat level all the way through them. But those lower two ones do start them lower. So although it's a consistent number, it just has a modifier based on how far through the travel missions you are. The relic missions and the story missions do not get modified by it. So if you're playing on easy and you decide to take on a relic mission, it's going to be pretty hard for you, right? But if you're taking it on insane, it's actually even harder because some of them have 400 threat. Now, 400 threat to a lot of people won't mean anything, but it's basically pretty much 1.5 times as hard as a standard mission in Gloomhaven. So, the idea is that easy players find the start much easier, and by the end, they're finding how difficult it was in the old game, and hard or insane players are finding it much harder at the end and still as hard at the beginning. So everyone should have a challenge, and of course, with the new difficulty mode, you can change the difficulty at any time. So we did have some people start off insane, saying, I can play this on insane, and then they found it was actually too insane, so they dropped down to hard, and then unlocked a few more items, got a bit more gold, and then went back up to insane again.
Right.
that's cool, right? Because you can just keep going. You don't have to feel like you're banging your head against a wall.
Well, I tried Insane, and like it's you will be banging your head against the wall in Insane. I mean, like the new Insane is really hard. Like it's above my level. Definitely, but I could play on hard in the previous one. I could play on hard in the previous round. Now, like Insane is no. Big no go.
I mean, you really do have to pick your characters, pick your items, pick the correct cards.
Yeah, like you need to be optimized, like everywhere, basically.
You can't just go sort of stumbling in with whatever you've got, which you could in the old mode, right? Which not anymore.
Someone was asking which quest took you the longest to balance or to get right.
Which quest?
Yeah, like or type of quest, you know, like from the new mode.
I'm gonna say a word, and then Craig can jump in. I'm gonna say tutorial.
Well, it's not a quest, but yes.
Well, it is.
Technically, yeah, but yeah. Now, I was thinking survive missions.
I don't know. I think we've got some multiple faction missions. So there are missions where you have two sets of enemies who are both enemies to you and enemies to each other. So again, something we can use for the campaign, perhaps, if there may be a quest like that in the campaign. And some of those are ones that people are finding great, but actually they're quite difficult to balance, because if a room normally has, or if a quest normally has 300 threat, if you have two groups of enemies, is it 600? Right? Because you have two groups of 300 fighting each other. So things like that, it's interesting to really have a look at the stats when they come back and go, yep, you got that bang on, that was perfect, or actually people are breezing through it, they're just sitting back and not fighting anything, right? So yeah, and the spawning ones are tricky, and the difficulty and also the number of heroes for spawning is, I mean, there's some big old matrices of enemy types and numbers on those spawn missions, because depending on each round you spawn different enemies in different places depending on the number of heroes. So it can get quite complicated, and I'm not I'm good at my job, but yeah, there might be moments in the game where the difficulty is slightly off and we need to look at some stats and tweak a number here and there, and that should be fine, because it's not a board game with printed out documents. It's a game we can edit on the fly and then have another new version of it where that mission's slightly easier on Insane with 3 heroes. Right? One mission might need that.
Oh,
generally seems quite good.
Someone is asking, add achievements to the game. We're ahead of you, man. Like, we did it.
Lots of achievements.
Already did. There you go.
But the achievement system has to go in because the board game uses an achievement system, right? So there's something we've always wanted to get in, and it uses it to unlock content, which is exactly what ours does. So again, at the moment, it's presented as the trainer giving you things to do, and then he unlocks things based on it. But that will slot perfectly into the campaign system with anything that unlocks, open this envelope when this happens. That's an achievement, right? So all of the achievements. That mandatory quest guy, who is that?
Can someone ban this guy? I
think mandatory quest deserves some degree of a call out. You can all thank mandatory quest for doing himself no favors now, but mandatory quest has been streaming like a madman since this new update came into open beta, and has been invaluable at finding especially some of the bugs that are later on in the game. But it has also meant he's missed out on some content because he's found a bug and then we fixed it for everyone else. But he's already past that point, so he's missed it. It's gone. But it's he's been doing a great job. So yeah, if you're looking for streams, you should check out Mandatory Quest. He's good streamer for Gloomhaven.
I liked it when Closed Beta were watching him and saying, "Oh, he's really lucky with all these rolls. He wouldn't normally be able to survive this mission," and then he just got through it and won. And they were like, "Yeah, he was just lucky."
Right. Well, let me see. What do we have still? Are there going to be more non-campaign related update before we get to the campaign? Absolutely, right? Like there's multiplayer, and then we'll be releasing more Mercenaries in between, obviously. Yep. So yes. So in the does the difficulty settings on digital right now adjust the monster quantity as opposed to just their strengths? So
Yeah. So the basic thing that it does is it changes their level, right? Like the board game.
Yeah.
But what it also does is, and this is what I was trying to explain earlier, is if you're a seasoned player, you don't need the game to start off slightly easier, right? You just want the game to be hard from the start because it gives you a challenge and it's fun, right? Whereas if you're an easy player, you want to not lose immediately on the first mission 5 times in a row, like perhaps in the old adventure mode.
Right.
So that was something we had to look at though, quite in detail to really allow both of those groups of players to have a fun game. So yes, absolutely. If you play it on easy, there will be less enemies and they will be lower level. There's even less than it says there is, because although you get 25% less enemies, you actually get even less when it's at the start of the adventure. At the end of the adventure, you're still getting 25% less enemies. Right on the very last quest of the game, you'll still be getting 25% less enemies, but at the beginning of the game, you'll get 25% less and more less. So you even have a ramp as an easy player.
More or less.
Sorry?
More or less.
More or less, yeah. But as an insane player, no, it was just going to kill you.
All right.
Straight on the first mission, bang, go. Have some fun.
So someone was asking, in the board game campaign, when you retire a character later on, you can recruit a second character of that same class. Will we be able to do that?
If it's in the board game, you will be able to do it.
There you go. If it's in the board game, you will.
If there's any questions which are in the board game, can we do that when the campaign comes out? Yes. Will it be in the Guildmaster mode? Depends, right? It depends if it's something that
Right.
Oh, except there'll be a chimeric formula.
Yeah, it will be in there.
There'll be a chimeric formula. So yeah, some of the things will be different. Will be slightly different because the situations like the leather, right? The leather armor. I'm sure if you had the leather armor from the board game in, you wouldn't be particularly happy to use it. So there will be things that are changed. But yes, if there's something in the board game, then we will be putting it into the digital version. Can you eat the delicious cards?
You can eat
No.
your keyboard.
You can print them out. You could take a screenshot.
Yeah.
You could print them out
Print
then
it and then eat it.
For health and safety reasons, we advise that you don't print out pictures of our cards and eat them.
on rice paper.
Yeah.
Print them out on rice paper.
Yeah, but even the ink might be bad. No, let's just not listen to Drab. Let's just let everyone don't listen to Drab. That's the best course of action. Are there any plans to increase animation speed or an option for it? Night Demons moving 4 tiles in slow motion feels a little wrong at the moment, says someone.
It's on the list, but it's low down, and I'm only saying that because we have more creatures to implement first, right? So, we will at some point. That's suitably vague. We will at some point be revisiting things like that, and hopefully being able to go in and go right. We've got some animation time, because obviously, what it comes back to the questions from the community, right? Because you can have a choice. Do you want Night Demons to animate faster, or do you want a new creature type? Right? That's probably the best way of replying to that question,
Right.
because you're not going to get both at the same time. You're going to get one first, and I would assume you would rather have new creatures than for us to go back and speed up some animations. Right?
We
right?
have taken sort of learnings from them we do try to trim down some of the animation times. We just haven't gone back and updated some of the slower ones. The living corpse as well as another one that frustrates me.
You can't run the living corpse.
It just seems to slow down, like gradually comes to a stop as he moves to a top. But anyway, it is that thing of what do we just got to prioritize things. We can't do everything at the same time. So
we can certainly, I mean that's.
But there's
a good
two
question,
questions
right?
here. There's two questions. They're spinning up specific monster that are.
Yes.
That need a little bit of polish, and I think that's reasonable. And then there's implementing new systems for you guys to be able to speed up all animation in the game, which is something that requires a lot more work, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So no, an entire system would be is a lot more work and is a lot more prone to to bugs, which is the other thing. Like the sheer amount of testing that is required in this game. Everything that we do that kind of adds another layer to that, and effectively adding a fast mode would double the amount of testing that we have to do, which is just not really feasible. So we're definitely looking to speed up some things, but yeah, adding a full mode is not likely.
Yeah.
So I'll answer Mr. Chrissy D's question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll be changing the campaign so it works similar to the board game with scenarios, or keeping it how it is now, where you're continuously traveling. So the campaign will be like the campaign. So you'll be based in Gloomhaven. You'll travel out from Gloomhaven. You'll have city events. You'll have road events, and some of the locations you'll be able to move from location to location, if that's how they work in the campaign. So yeah, don't see it as we've implemented Guildmaster mode. That's how the campaign's now going to work. It's going to be how the campaign works.
All right. Another question about house rules, etc. Are we going to add the special scenario rules into the player usable scenario maker tool?
Yes. So we've added some of the scenario modifiers are in. I will say that typically the level editor behind what you see in game, because actually we typically are using the YAML files that you can see from the modding side of things. We use that as kind of the first time to implement things, and then we actually bring that back into the level editor. So you'll find that even with the new update, there's a lot more functionality in the level editor. And I'll maybe set up and do a stream or something, or do a video to kind of walk through kind of how to use that. But there is a lot more functionality added already, and we will continue to add that to the level editor, because we need that to make all the campaign levels.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, in speech marks, in theory, you will be able to make every campaign level with the level editor. In theory. I mean, there might be a few things behind the scenes we need to do, but in theory you should be able to lay them all out, put all the creatures in, put them in the right place. So if you can do that with those ones, you should be able to make quite a wide variation of campaign.
Yeah. Well, I think as well with the new Guildmaster update, if you get into the YAML files and set up, you can actually create mods that would you'd actually be able to make your own like adventure journey missions in terms of set up parties however you want, give them whatever starting items you want, give them set chains of quests and events to go and do that could unlock other quests. Like it's all there. It's how we do it. So you could actually set up all of that stuff yourself, and we've expanded the localization modding as well, so that you can now sort of combine multiple CSV files for the language editing, which means that every single mod can come with its own localization file, which could just be in English, but you would be able to add your own story and dialogue, or to the start and sort of middle and end of each quest if you want. So there's huge amount of modding potential. You just kind of need to dig in and understand how they all work. So I think it will try and sort of share some of that information, but then it'll kind of come into the point of once people start to show more enthusiasm for it and then actually start trying to use it, then we can apply some more of our efforts into there. It's not really been a huge shift on that so far, but if that's what people are interested in, and then people are making great content, then we'll definitely try and support that further. But then the custom levels that we've done, we've hooked that up to work with the Steam Workshop now. So there's a cool potential that you could create your own custom levels in the level editor and define them as using when people play them, you actually take in your guild from the Guildmaster mode and use that as save file basically to play that one scenario. It won't affect your save file for the guild at all. It will just be one scenario that you get to play. But when you select to play that from the Steam Workshop, you'll just be brought to the sort of loadout screen where you'll be able to change the characters that you've got, change their loadout, and then actually go and take on that scenario with whoever you've unlocked, whatever items you've unlocked, perks and everything. So I think there's some interesting stuff there that we could see people creating, level 9 scenarios or scenarios for characters that are at level 9, and uber powered. And can we actually create that next tier of content? Because as we say, we don't know, once you start adding all your enhancements and perks and everything, do you actually start to overpower compared to what we've designed? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if people are actually going to be able to make their own custom levels that could challenge people even further.
All right. Like a very specific one that I like, just asked, does a digital game will have monster limits, such as the bolt games, like no more than 10 of some enemies?
So every now and then you're on a chat and you think, I hope someone doesn't mention that question because I don't
Exactly,
know the
right? Okay.
right, and you then picked that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
So I think at the moment, looking at some of the screenshots I've seen from the spawning missions, is we don't.
No, we don't. I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, I kind of know it. I think we do enforce the curse limit now because there we go. Look at that.
Yeah. Curses and blesses are limited, yeah.
But creatures are not. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to... There is a tactic which, on Insane, has been used in some of the spawn missions, but we'll let people figure that one out for themselves. But, there's particular characters that are better in some than others, but there are lots... You can face a lot of enemies. So, enjoy.
Yeah.
So there's one that I can take because it's more on my side. Will we add other languages other than English? So the guys have, as Craig was mentioning, the guys have the whole system in place to set up new languages, and you can also do it through mods at the moment if you want to. I shied away from it because I didn't want the guys to be in a position where they could not make regular updates, where they would have to wait for translations to come in, and several we wanted to have a system where we can update regularly and have a fast-paced thing, so I shied away from it. When we get closer to the campaign, definitely we will consider new languages, and the system is already in place for it. So my answer would be yes, not just right now.
Yeah, so the thing that we've done for this update is we changed the fonts in the game, so anybody who tried to do modding for some of the other languages, we're finding there's a limited character set before. So we have changed them now, so there's a much wider character set that's available. There's still definitely going to be some issues. I've seen a couple of reports from some of the guys that are in the open beta already, but it should be much more usable now. So we'll continue trying to support that because we know there's only so much we'll ever be able to do, but actually if we can make these tools available for the community, then you guys are free to actually do whatever languages you want. You do in Welsh if you want.
Alright. And another one was, will future Mercenaries have skins? How do we release them through community events, etc.? So I think that's on us, right? Yes, definitely. There will be skins for the 6 starting characters during the early access. So there's we released Spellweaver, Brute, and Scoundrel, right? These are the 3 we released already, I think. The other 3 will be coming through events, and will there be more? I don't know. How much money do you guys have for DLC?
How much money do we have?
Will there be more? Maybe. I don't know yet. Like right now, what we wanted to do is offer you guys these 6 as part of the early access. To thank you for backing us up during the early access. Will there be more? I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, like the 6 starting will definitely be coming though.
The point there is though. You see, every time you create a new skin, people say, "Why aren't you not finishing the campaign?"
Yeah, like exactly. Well,
We're finishing the campaign now, right? That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the answer, Julian.
And also, please note that the people working on the campaign and the people making the skins are not the same.
They are different people. Yes.
That is the thing. Like, there is no impact to what we've been doing.
Yeah,
we're miles ahead.
We're not delaying the campaign so I can sell skins in DLCs to you guys. We're not. Yes. Promise. There you go. No, I've got a bunch of hard-hitting publisher-related questions, so I'm gonna zoom through those.
I'll have a nap now, then.
Yeah. Is the game coming to Stadia? Not planned at the moment at all. Or other platforms like GeForce Now. We are studying that, and we'll keep you guys updated very shortly. But GeForce Now is definitely on the line. Will we add additional music to Gloomhaven, or voice acting, voiceover, dialogues, etc.? Is this going to be added? I would love to. Will be my answers. Like it's the kind of thing that is very, very success dependent for us as a publisher. I would love to personally. This is something that I've been helping to do for a while.
I'll do my dwarf accent.
Yeah, and I already like just so you guys know how much we want to do it. We pre-recorded Mike's voice, so we can see what it looks like, etc. That was good fun.
No, I'm not doing it now. Before.
Yeah. No. Save it for later. All right. Similar to Hot Seat, will the game support the remote play together feature? That's interesting because we've been discussing it with Craig as an alternative to multiplayer when it was not ready yet, but now that multiplayer is about to come out, I'm not sure I see the point. Craig, can you help me there? I don't know.
Yeah, well, one of the things that play together is that you actually have to have different sort of character or player profiles. So it's typically done for games that have like multiple controllers plugged in. You can actually assign, each player to a different controller, and that's how they do it. And that's not how our game is set up. So it's not actually something that works. So actually, to do it, we'd actually, have to start adding in controller support, which is not really on high up the to-do list. So yeah, it's not really a feature we'd be able to support anytime soon anyway.
Right. Are we planning to do First Haven, Forgotten Circle, and like new content implementations? Again, like I would love to. This is very success dependent. I think we would all love to do those. So yeah, like it's definitely a topic that has been discussed with IDAG, but it's too early to tell anything right now.
That's the one where you talk to the publisher, right? It's not going to help coming to Craig and me on that one.
Yeah, like these ones. That's us.
Yeah, and all the GeForce Now questions, they can go to Julian as well.
Yeah. Oh no. But yeah, technically, yeah, it's us handling it. For you guys that are impatient about GeForce Now, we're on it. Did we expect development to take as long as it has? Yes and no. I mean,
the game has changed a lot as we've gone through as well. So the ambition for the game has changed several times throughout it. So, and even things like multiplayer was never planned, and that certainly adds a huge challenge to the development. And then things like even with the you see with the campaign, and it's kind of interesting what Isaac's done with Jaws of the Lion, is that actually the core campaign itself doesn't really, it's not a pleasant onboarding experience for anybody. So things like that we've done with the new Guildmaster mode is creating this entire, is it what we call the FTUE, the first time user experience, to actually try and bring new players into the game and then teach them at a more gradual pace. And that kind of thing, was never really, if we were just doing a straight port, we would never sort of be planned. So the game has just constantly evolved in terms of what we want to try and achieve and kind of the quality we want to bring to it, which has been good because the game's better for it. So So yeah, it's been certainly glad that it has taken longer than originally sort of had anticipated for, but I think it's all for the better of the game.
Yeah. So the language one already answered. Thoughts on microtransactions?
No, thanks.
As a publisher, yes please. As a gamer, no thanks. So no thanks. that's what it is. I guess
I think for the answer is for Gloomhaven, no. I think
not for Gloomhaven,
other games, it's everybody's free to make their own choices.
Like as a publisher, I would be tempted, to swim in that money, but I don't see how it fits the game at all. I don't see any reason to implement any kind of microtransaction.
You can't have microtransactions with the campaign, right? It doesn't, because all the content's there. The only way you could have microtransactions is by adding more content on top of the campaign.
Yeah, or sell the multiplayer as a DLC or as a microtransaction. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we could do, but that's terrible. So we're not going to do them, right?
We just have all the chests that you loot. You then have to buy keys.
Exactly.
To see what's inside there.
Exactly. Yeah. You loot the chest, but you have to buy the keys on the store. No microtransactions. And cosmetics. I mean,
I don't think we're opposed to it, but after early access, we got enough stuff to do. We wanted to do some alt skins for the starting 6 characters, especially as those are the ones that everybody going to use the most.
Yeah.
And we had the opportunity to do it in terms of the time from the art team, so that makes sense to do. I think if we're doing any others, then it's a question for whether there's an appetite within the community for it. I'd love to see even alts for the enemies as well, but again, it's just whether that's what people want us to spend our time doing.
Yeah. So more exotic questions about stuff that we could do. What are you guys' thoughts about PvP, 4v4, create your own characters, etc., more exotic things to do with the game?
So something like PvP,
yep.
Once multiplayer's in and working, once you put characters in different factions already exist. No, James' head explodes. I don't think it's impossible, but there's enough other stuff to get done first, right? So
absolutely,
you've got everything you need to get for campaign ready. You get campaign ready. You then finish campaign, and on that day you say, what are we doing next? And maybe one of the conversations is PvP, right? But I don't think we go near it until then. So
it's really not in the plans. It's like everything else. Like when we get to finishing the campaign, and then there's a world of opportunities. Do we do PvP? Do we do Frosthaven? Do we do Forgotten Circles? There's a lot of things that we could be doing after the campaign. And right now our full focus is on finishing Gloomhaven, making it as good as it can be, and what will come later, I mean, we'll see, but there are definitely a lot of options for us to consider.
Well, the other thing is, again, what you have to understand with what we've got, right, versus what the board game is if you want to create a lot more content with the board game, you actually have to physically manufacture it or come up with all the rule sets and everything like that. Whereas in the game at the moment, we actually have a lot of it, right? So if we wanted to add more quests, it's a text file, right? And then you've got a new quest. If you want to add a new creature, you can add a few, character YAMLs, and then you've got a new creature. And you need to do the graphics for the creature, but
it's a great platform to create new stuff.
Exactly. There are lots of things you can do, but we've got to get the campaign out first, right?
Yeah.
So,
someone was asking
as everyone
about...
keeps telling us correctly, right? Yeah. But we do. So there are lots of things we could do, but we've got to finish what we said we'd do first.
Absolutely. And someone was asking about our ability to make new enemies, because we've met the Skeleton's Archer. What's the name of it?
Bone Archer, Bone Ranger.
Yeah, Bone Rangers.
Yep.
We've made those. Again, same answer. As Mike said, there is a platform for us to create a lot of new content, new missions, new enemies, etc. Right now, it's more modders. doing that side of things, but we definitely could do it in the future. It's
Yeah, the
we just
reason
need to
we did
finish what we started first.
yeah, the reason we did the early ones, it was more of a dev decision to create extra content at the beginning, which sounds strange, right? Why would you create the bone
Yep.
range? Why would you create the undead commander? And the reason is we had less assets back at the start of the development, which meant we could have released a version of the game with less creatures in. And we're like, we could make some more creatures, but they need brand new assets. Or we've got this skeleton asset and we've got archer animations. We can make a skeletal archer. Awesome. Let's do that. That gives us more creatures at the start of the game. What we've got now is, in some respects, is a backlog of animations and meshes. So we've actually got a whole bunch of creatures ready to come into the game. And those of you lucky enough at the moment to be in closed beta will start seeing them, I hope, quite soon, right? Another good group of creatures coming in. So we don't really need to make new stuff at the moment because, again, we need to make the stuff we need to make first, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
it comes back to what a lot of the community is saying, which is finish the campaign. So we're like, yeah, we're going to finish the campaign, right? So we're gonna start with absolutely all the things we need to do. And yes, we could take a side route and make some more things, but if we do that, then the campaign will take a little bit longer, and that's not what we want to do.
Absolutely.
One question there about possibility to implement an overview of the discarded lost cards that a character has when it isn't their turn. That is definitely something that's high up the list of things we want to start looking at in terms of UI improvements. And the ability to actually see even things like when you're burning a card at short rest, it's hard to actually look at all the cards you have. There's multiple things like that try and tidy up. It's a good suggestion.
Yeah, definitely. I had one last on my list about any possibility of importing a real-world instance of Gloomhaven into the game. That's one that we surprisingly have had a lot, actually. How can I translate my board game into the future campaign? I don't think we can. I don't see how you could possibly do that. So you could play until that point is what you could do.
I don't think it's a case of how. I don't think it's possible, right? Because fundamentally, once the campaign is implemented, there is a save game, and the save game holds all of that possible information. The question then is, can you convert a save game to something like an Excel file, right? And then can you import the Excel file? And that is a job which someone has to do, he says, looking at James. The point is, yes, we could do it. The question is, should we be doing that, or should we be doing something else? So I don't think it's impossible, because that information has to exist in a save game. So can you create a save game out of an Excel sheet? Can you export an Excel sheet from a save game and then edit that Excel sheet and then re-import it? Potentially, yes. Should we be doing that instead of other stuff? I don't know. That's a question, for us to have at that time.
Again, it's not just doing that; it's then making sure it works and making sure it works in every single. I've done these campaigns and this characters, and there's just so many variables in it. Anything that we do does have, it's not just the case of doing the simple job or a smaller complex job from the code side of things. There's a lot of additional work that goes into making sure those things actually work.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we can set up the map to be anything we want it to be. All the quests you've completed, haven't completed, all the achievements you've completed. That's all in a text file for us at the moment. Now, obviously, that doesn't go out to the players, because it's a way for us to jump to the game at any point. Otherwise, it would take us a long time to test everything in the game. So there are things we can do. Maybe then there's a way of, you can set your character's XP, right? Maybe there's a few commands we could put in which would then allow you to get the game to pretty much what you were. I think it's possible. It's just, should we be doing it is probably the question, right? Is it more important than everything else we can be doing?
Speaking of which,
okay, go ahead.
Can we go back to making the game now?
I think I've been
time-wise. How are we getting on?
Like it was planned for 2 hours, so we're almost there, gentlemen. I had one last from my to-do list. It was what is the change in the Guildmaster mode that you guys are the most proud of, like on a personal level?
For me, I have to kind of be proud of it, because writing 95 quests
Yeah.
kind of made my brain melt.
Yeah.
And so far, people either have liked them or have skipped the text and have enjoyed them, right? And both of those for me are victories. So whether you sit and read every one of my sentences and then see that I've misspelt the somewhere, or whether you've just played the quests and gone, this is balanced quite well, that was really hard, oh my god, this took me 3 attempts and I got through, then I have been successful, right? And I'm happy with that. So far, not touch wood because I don't say stuff like that, but so far, generally, the open beta and the closed beta has been pretty positive, right? Everyone has been very nice about the things we've done. So at the moment, I'm happy with a lot of it, and there's still more to go. Like, I'm just starting to design the next one, and we've got to have a chat about that at some point, probably early next week, about how big the next one's going to be, and the creatures, and the items, and the quests, and everything, right?
Yeah.
And we get to do it all again, and we get to learn off everything we've done so far. So the next one, all the content we're putting in that should make it better as well. So, this is the worst it'll ever be. It'll only get better from here, Julian.
Absolutely. Well, I count on it. Craig, what was your most proud thing? The things that made you the most proud?
I don't know. I mean, I have actually gone and done development for some reason on this one.
Yeah,
So
like it's talking to these guys. Like,
yeah. Well, I think personally, like, it's been good. I've actually gone and built all the tutorial levels with the help of Misha. So yeah, it's been fun for me. I'm normally not actually getting in and creating things in games, so it's been good. But yeah, I think for me that it's just how it's all come in together, like the working with the closed beta and the open beta. Like, what we get from those communities is just so valuable. So I'm just really proud of how this all works, and kind of the interaction we have, because it's something we've wanted to do even through, we're working through like Lionhead and stuff, that there's always been a bit of a frustration of not being able to work directly with the community. So yeah, it's just really good to actually be set up in this way and actually be able to work directly and chat with people, and you guys are getting updates thick and fast, and it allows us to over deliver a lot of the times on kind of what we could do if it was just us. So you're helping make the game better.
Yeah, it is the attitude of a lot of the fans as well. When something maybe doesn't work, and they're helpful rather than angry most of the time, which is great, right? Because then it allows us to fix it, ping it back, and they're like, "Oh, thanks for doing that." It's like, well, yeah, thanks for telling us, right? And thanks for not getting on about it. And this is early access, and we will make it better. And one day it won't be early access, and all those things should work, right? Should just work for everybody. So you're helping us make this game better every week, right? Which is great for us.
Amazing. I'm touched.
I'm tearing up.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I think I'm sweating. Actually.
I really need a drink.
all right. So
someone had a diesel car right outside my window, so all I could hear was so I shut it. So now I'm basically cooking.
So, as you guys know, Craig is a CEO, right? He's a busy man, so we don't want to, take too much of his time that he attributes to beer.
I don't think people actually know what I do.
I don't know.
No, I meant in the community.
Sorry.
Yeah, because like people don't know that you're actually the CEO of the company, but yeah.
I'm the COO. You never mentioned that.
No, because
no, I don't know what that is.
It's like the second man on the moon.
Exactly. Like you're number 2, Mike. Nobody.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but yeah, I'm that. I've got some letters.
Like,
I don't know what it means.
Like it's like people don't want to know about me.
People
don't want to know about me. So they want to know about you. They just want to know about Craig. He's the man. That's it. All right.
I also actually want to give a call out to all of the other developers, right? Because we have gone through. This has been an incredibly busy few months for us, and with everything that's happening in the world, they have stuck to it amazingly well. Right now, we are in an advantage compared to a lot of companies because we already were working remotely, right? So everyone's like, "Oh, I've got to work remotely. How do I do working from home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just carry on, just do what I've been doing every day." But there's a level of stress in the world at the moment, which is higher than normal, and everyone has stuck to their work, and they've done an amazing job. And the fact, that this game's coming out, or this version of the game's coming out, and it's in such a good state, and everyone's enjoying it so much, I've been really, really impressed with everyone. So I'd just like to say thanks to everyone on the team.
No, you guys have been amazing. It's been a fantastic journey to work with you guys. Again, well, you know how I feel about this, but it's been a real pleasure. And also, I have to shout out to my team making the amazing trailers and the coverage here on the forums, etc. You guys rock. It's been a pleasure. So there you go. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Someone was asking about voice acting again. Already answered that one, but yes, this is something that I would love to do. So quest intros, cinematics. We're looking into it. Very success dependent feature, but I would love to. Right. And
Get
that's
more
it. I think
friends
that's
to buy the game. Then Asmodee will go, let's put voice
exactly.
acting.
Like you
that,
guys
right?
go talk to your friends, buy more games, and that way we'll have voice acting. That's simple as that. All right. No, yeah, like I think it's a good point to wrap it up. So again, like a quick reminder, Guildmaster massive update coming to you guys on the main branch release tomorrow. More information about that on Steam, in the trailer, the blog post, everything. You can find it out there. Multiplayer is at the moment in closed beta. We'll be picking a few people from this very community as we go and ramp it up until we reach a point where we're happy. We can open it up to open beta for everyone, where you guys will be able to jump in, and then it will be released after the summer, probably. So the roadmap is also available on Steam. You can find everything out there, and of course stay tuned into the Discord. Thank you guys for your amazing support. You've been a wonderful community to be around, and we're past beer time, so it's tradition. We gotta go. It's been a pleasure, and thank you guys for joining me tonight.